Hi everyone, in this video we're going to look at how to create a dove soft toy. So the final product looks like this. And it doesn't have to be a dove, it can be a raven as well if you use black fabric. And one nice thing about this toy is you can fold the wings into the tail, and that gives it character. Now, it takes about 20 to 25 hours to complete the project, so you want to set aside some time for this. And we're going to begin by looking at the material that we need to create this project. So the first thing is you need to have the fabric. So this is velour fleece. I'll link to the exact place that I actually buy this from, because there are some places where they sell things that they call velour fleece, but it's not the same material. Next, you need to have some thread. You want to have white thread if you're having white fabric, and black thread if you're having black fabric, just so that it doesn't show when you sew. And you need to have a needle, of course. You need to have eyes. These are 6mm from AliExpress. I've tried both 5 and 7mm, and then they come paired with some sockets. You need to have fabric chalk. So don't get fabric marker, get fabric chalk. And you don't need fancy chalk, you can just get regular fabric chalk. If you're using white fabric, use blue fabric chalk. And if you're using black fabric, use white fabric chalk. You need a pencil, and you need to have some card. So we're going to be printing a dove stencil on paper, but don't use regular copy paper because it's quite soft. What you want to get is card, which is about 160 grams per square meter, and A4. And you need scissors. This is for cutting both the fabric and the stencil out of the card. And you need to have some felt. So felt is like hard sponge, and you can get these in A4 size. You just need half of it. And you want to get hard felt because there's softer felt, but the hard felt gives the wing more structure. So that's what makes the wing a bit more stiff. Alright, I think that's all for material. Oh, wait, one more. We need to have stuffing, of course. Hobby fill. I think 50 grams is enough to fill one bird. Okay, so with all of that, let's begin. The first step is to print out the dove stencil onto your card and cut them out. And when you have cut out the shapes, you will have something like this, and you want to lay them out on the underside of the fabric. So this side of the fabric is the soft part, and this is the underside. Next, you want to take your fabric chalk and then draw around and trace around every single shape on the fabric. But make sure that you leave enough gap between each shape, because we're not going to be cutting on the line that we draw. We're going to be cutting with some margin around the shape. And the reason for that is where we draw, that's where we're going to sew. And the margin is allowing us to have a bit of fabric such that you're not sewing on the edge of the fabric, you're sewing slightly inside of it. So let's go ahead and do that. When you have traced all of the shapes onto the fabric, we're now ready to cut the shapes out. So remember that we are not cutting on the line, we're not cutting there, but we're cutting about 7mm margin around each shape. So let's go ahead and cut out these shapes. After you've cut out all of the pieces of fabric, the next step is to sew them together. And if you've never sewn fabric or anything together before, you realize that we need to sew things inside out. So that means for the tail piece, you'll be sewing them back to back, just along the line and along the bottom line as well. We leave a gap initially, and we're going to turn that inside in such that the nice part of the fabric is now exposed to the outside. And none of the margin will actually be shown outside. That's how you get something like this. Now, in the description there is a PDF. It will show you the lines on which to sew each piece together. So it will look something like this. You probably can't read this on screen, but the blue lines will be the straightforward sewing lines where one piece connects to the other piece, but the red and green lines, which you will see for steps 5 through 8, is where we connect 3 pieces together. So those pieces will be the top of the body, which will look like the long piece, as well as the side of the body, which is that piece, and to the wing. So what that looks like in 3D is we're going to connect this part to that part, but also to the wing. So step 5 will connect from the top of the body to the side of the body along this line until you reach the top of the wing, and it's going to continue from the top of the body connecting to the top of the wing along this line. And once you reach the back of the wing, that's where you stop. And we restart at the front of the wing, but to the bottom piece of the wing, connecting that to the side of the body until you reach the back of the wing, and then you're going to connect the side of the body to the top of the body along that line till the very end. And you repeat for the other side as well. One more tip before you start sewing is how to stitch your pieces of fabric together. And so imagine these two are your pieces of fabric, and that this ribbon here is your thread. So I use something called the back stitch, and how that works is like this. So you bring your thread through both pieces of fabric. I call this up. Then you bring it across. So that's forward. Bring it down and bring it back. So that's the back and back stitch. And not all the way. You bring it up again, forward, down, and back. And you repeat this pattern until you get to the end. So how to secure it is you take one end of the thread, so this is securing the start, you put it through the first loop and you double knot it here. So you double knot it. I'm only doing one knot here. So how to end is similar. So once you get to the last loop, you go forward, down, back, and up. And here you would cut the thread, take one end, put it underneath the loop, and double knot it there. So that's how you would secure the end. And so with this, now you've got plenty of sewing to do, so I hope you enjoy. When you have sewn the tail and the wing pieces, what you can do is turn them inside in. So with the tail, you would have sewn the top line as well as the bottom line and left a gap between those two sewing lines. And in that gap is where you would be turning the piece inside in. So let's go ahead and do that. This can take a little while, so we're going to speed up the video for that. Okay, and likewise, the wing can also be turned inside in, and you just push that through the base of the wing. The next part of the sewing is going to be perhaps the most difficult, because we're going to take 3 pieces, the top of the body, the side, and the wing, and combine them together. So first you would take the top and the side and connect them along the beak towards the neck, and once you've reached the neck, that's where you take the wing, put it between the pieces, and you would sew from the top to the top half of the wing, and you go back and forth until you reach the back of the wing, and then you stop there. Then you would take the side and start a new line connecting the side of the body to the bottom of the wing. And you would go all the way until the back of the wing, and then connect the side of the body to the top of the body. So a bit messy in terms of my demonstration here, but then hopefully it shows you that connecting the three pieces together would retain the gap between the two halves of the wing, because that's where we're going to push some of the stuffing through, as well as the felt to give the wing some structure. When you've done that, it should look something like this. So this is the top part of the body, and I've sewn along that line through to the other side, which is the side of the body, which is that line. And when I reach the neck, that's where, instead of sewing through to the side of the body, I've now sewn through to the first top part of the wing. And I've sewn all the way to the back of the wing, and I've stopped there. And now the next step for me is to continue sewing from the top of the neck to the bottom half of the wing all the way. And when I reach the back of the wing, that's where the thread will now continue and meet the top of the wing and connect all the way to the end. When you've done that, it should look something like this. So the side of the body is now connected along that line to the bottom half of the wing. So there, and to the top part of the body, which is along that line. And once you've completed that, you get to do it all again with the other side of the body. When you've done that, it will look something like this, where if you were to turn the dove the right way up, it actually begins to resemble the dove. And for our final piece, we will still be sewing the bottom part of the body with the fabric inside out. So it will look something like this. And when you get to the tail end, that's where you want to sew the tail piece between the bottom part of the body and the side of the body, and you will sew through the extra flap on the tail. And when you get to the back, you do want to connect the bottom part of the body to the side, but do not sew to the very end, because we need to leave the gap on both sides such that we can push the dove inside in and outside out. And that will be the final part of the sewing. And after you've completed this step, the rest of the project will finish quite quickly. And here it is. So the bottom part of the body is sewn to both sides along that line and this line. And make sure that you actually sew the tail to the back. And there should be a flap here where you haven't actually connected the bottom part of the body to the top. So there's a gap on either side of the tail. And if you've done it right, you've got an inside out dove. So we can go ahead and turn it inside in. The next step is to cut the felt to push into the wings. So grab the felt, which is the sponge-like material, as well as the two wing pieces from the dove stencil, and trace the shape around the wings onto the felt. Now once you've traced the wings onto the felt, you're going to actually trace another line, or draw another line within the traced wing, because the inner line will shrink the top and bottom edges of the wing slightly, so that when you are going to push the felt into the dove soft toy, there's actually, well, it's a bit hard to do it with a full-sized wing if you cut along the full edge. So reducing the size slightly will help make it easier. So let's go ahead and do that. Once you've cut out both wings, now you need to pull the felt into the dove. So what I do is I align it with the wing that I want to pull the felt through to. Then I will insert it through the back, usually through the bottom underneath the tail. And then I will slowly pull it through the body until I can get it through to the wing. So I'm going to speed up the video for this because it can take a little while. Okay, now we've got wings, we need eyes. So for this step, you need to have some of that stuffing to fill the head. You need your chalk, fabric chalk, and that's going to mark where the eyes will go. And you need your scissors. So that's going to be cutting the slits for the eyes. And be very careful here because we want to make really small slits. And of course, we also need our eyes and the sockets. Alright, so first grab some stuffing and push that through to the head. Now when you've got a nice round head, you want to take the chalk and mark the two sides of the eyes underneath the top piece. So you're going to mark the sides of the body with the chalk vertically. And vertically because we want to make sure that's how we're going to cut the slit. Then take your scissors and make the smallest cut. So actually squeeze the side of the body so that the vertical line becomes flat. And then make the smallest cut. And do the same for the other side. Now, hopefully you made it symmetrically because you can't undo this. Now I'm going to go ahead and put 2 eyes and 2 sockets into those sides. Alright, we're nearly there. So to finish off, we can fill the dove with more stuffing, as well as, to make it look a bit better, we can tie a ribbon around its neck. So let's do that. And there we have it, the final product. If you followed along and made one of these yourselves, please take a photo and post it in the comments. It would be nice to know that someone else actually made one of these. And care instructions. Remove the stuffing, remove the felt, remove the ribbon, and then you can put the fabric in the wash. Don't leave this near your pets unless you're a very good boy. And I hope you enjoyed this video. See you next time. Peace.